about it, I saw that there's some huge swath of American public land is now going on sale or whatever. This, I feel like, only perpetuates a problem that I am really passionate about, and it's called the concept of entrapment. So the concept of I don't mean the concept of entrapment legally, right? Entrapment is the idea that, like, you know, if you went back 500 years or more, most land was not fenced, right? There was towns, but then outside of like a town or a city, you just have woods or you'd have unincorporated land. And if that land wasn't being used, then you could theoretically, like, you could distance yourself from society and go try and take care of yourself in the woods. That was a possibility. You could say, I'm not going to do what you guys want me to do. I'm not going to go pay the rent. I'm not going to go work in a job. I'm going to go just wander off in the woods and try and completely self-sustain myself and not be a part of what your guys got going on. And that was something that you could do. But over the last couple hundred years, specifically between like 1800 and 1950, this concept of entrapment happened really in the United States, but worldwide, but especially in the United States, where almost every bit of land has been bought, sold, and most importantly, has been fenced off. So now now you have to participate in society, right? Now, if you want to have a place to sleep, you have to pay rent or sleep on the sidewalk. There is no third option of wandering off into the woods and pitching a tent or building your own little log cabin. That is not an option anymore. And so that whole concept of like boxing everything, all this land in with fences and ownership and privation, is called entrapment. And I think that it is a big problem for. I think it is a moralistic problem, but I think that this only exacerbates that problem even more. And also, this is the classic corporate short-term gain at the expense of long-term planning, right? This will be a quick cash injection to the U.S. government, but that's about it, right? Then all of this land goes into the hands of private landowners who I'm sure will use it for. It's just, this is a really dumb idea, right? And like, people have talked about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I think a far smarter thing is to have forests and land like this as a strategic reserve than to sell this shit off and have Bitcoin be a strategic reserve. Sell your stupid Bitcoin and have this be the strategic reserve. This seems far more tangible and far more useful in the real world. The Senate budget bill, also called the Reconciliation Bill, or Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, is making headlines for its drastic cuts to Medicaid, its rollback of clean energy tax credits, and the fact that it would raise the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. It's also threatening to take away millions of acres of public land. Nearly 150 groups, including the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Center for Biological Diversity, and local organizations like Alaska Wilderness League and New Mexico Wild, have urged Senate members to reconsider this unprecedented sell-off of public lands. The Senate budget bill would be a fire sale of America's public lands and waters, Bobby McNeary, director of land conservation at the Natural Resources Defense Council, said in a statement. The first thing that comes to mind is, who's going to benefit most from all of this? Is it going to be the average American who doesn't have that much money in the bank and cannot afford to buy a 100-acre swath of really good, previously government-owned land? Or is it going to be the hundreds of millionaires and billionaires who could come over and buy these huge swaths of land to basically do absolutely nothing with, or to do only negative, cynical things with? I wonder which of these is going to benefit most from doing this kind of sale. I can't see any possible benefit to the average American from this at all. The bill would force the sale of between 2 million and 3 million acres of public land from the Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management, acres that span 11 western states. The state of Connecticut is about 3.1 million acres for comparison. The bill also makes even more public land eligible for sale. More than 250 million acres, including hiking trails, ski resorts, wilderness study areas, national monuments, and critical wildlife migration corridors. New areas would also be opened for oil leasing and offshore drilling under the bill, including the Gulf of Alaska. If passed, the bill would likely be the largest single sale of national public lands in modern history, according to the Wilderness Society. It's a move Senate Republicans are making, multiple groups note, in order to pay for billionaire tax breaks. The bill trades ordinary Americans' access to outdoor recreation for a short-term payoff that disproportionately benefits the privileged and well-connected, the Wilderness Society says. 100,000%. Who benefits from this? Not the average American. They are only negatively harmed by this. I would love to have a conversation with some of these Republican politicians about the concept of public lands, about the concept of the tragedy of the commons, about do they just want there to be zero public lands? Do they want, I get this impression they want everything to be private. They want every acre of land to be fenced off, to be private. And so, if you're not a landowner, if you don't have money, you have no access to anything, basically. That's what they want. They want a completely locked down society, is what it just feels like. Senator Mike Lee, a Republican from Utah and chairman of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, has also said the bill would create opportunities for housing. But totally. Yeah. They're going to buy these huge swaths of land and buy fucking urban sprawl McMansions that are totally going to help the housing cost situation we've got going in the country. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Building these suburbs in the middle of Utah. Yeah, that's totally going to work. Nobody's buying these swaths of land to buy to build affordable housing on, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. But nature organizations say it would do no such thing and that it would bring more harm to the public. Absolutely. There is no provision to prevent lands sold under Lee's bill from being developed into high-end vacation homes, Airbnbs, or luxury housing projects, which I would imagine would be the vast majority of any building that would be going on, any residential building that would be going on in these places. It would be those types of stuff, because who's buying this land, right? It's not somebody looking to build a bunch of communist-style apartment blocks. It's somebody looking to build McMansions and sell them for $5 million a piece. The letter, signed by dozens of organizations, reads, "Selling these lands," they add, "threatens public access, undermines responsible land management, puts environmental values, cultural resources, and endangered species at risk, along with clean drinking water for 60 million Americans, and betrays the public's trust." That 250 million acres of public lands are at risk can be hard to visualize. The Wilderness Society made an interactive map showing both the Bureau of Land Management and U.S. Forest Service lands the bill makes eligible for sale. The map illustrates how those 250 million acres span across 119 congressional districts, reaching all the way from Alaska down through the western United States and over past the Rocky Mountains. This bill would lead to a wave of irreversible extraction that will rob future generations of public access to lands and waters that belong to all of us, just to bankroll tax cuts for the super rich. McEnany said in his statement, "As currently proposed, Americans will soon lose permanent access to the public lands close to home, their favorite trails, their parks, and their favorite recreation areas. Once these lands are sold and the no trespassing signs go up, there will be no going back." Absolutely. It just further perpetuates this problem of entrapment. This idea that there are less and less public areas that people can access, less and less lands that people can go to, less and less areas that are not private property and that you would be trespassed off of. This seems like just such a terrible, terrible idea, especially within the context of the same administration pushing for some sort of ridiculous Bitcoin reserve or strategic Bitcoin reserve or whatever. It's just it's asinine that they would want to have some sort of Bitcoin reserve at the same time they want to sell this stuff off. To me, it seems entirely ass backwards. You would want to keep these sorts of lands as your strategic reserve and sell off the